Awesome. Just want to welcome everyone who's already signed on. We'll give it another couple of minutes to let others jump on and then we'll get started. Has everyone got a coffee, tea, water, drink in hand, ready to go? Let's give it a few more.
See that Nicole has a tea in hand. Hey, Nicole. Just while we're waiting for a few more people, if you want to type in the text box, you should see on the right-hand side, there's a chat log. So maybe just, if you want, happy to, you could say your name and where you're from if you want to have a quick shout out.
What are you drinking, Phil?
I am on a coffee, so my second one for the morning, which is probably bad, but I've just purchased a nice new coffee machine, so I'm actually enjoying making proper coffee.
Laura, what are you drinking?
I have a peppermint. I have a peppermint tea.
Oh, yeah.
Limit the coffee.
How about you, Lauren? That's a big mug.
It is a big mug. I like it because it keeps my hands warm. It's honey and vanilla tea. English breakfast with honey and vanilla. So, yeah.
Okay.
Let's give it a few more and then we'll kick off.
Brilliant. So we've got Natalie and Alana from WA saying hi. Hello to you both. And we've got, we've got Courtney from Brisbane, Robin from St. Ives, YMCA, sorry, not WA, saying the wrong language here. Trying to work the app. Natalie, morning from Darwin, which is great. Maddie from the Y New South Wales. We've got hot piping English breakfast tea. Morning to Rosina as well. And Annalise from New South Wales. So we've got lots from New South Wales and Deb from Melbourne. We've got Nicole from Youth Services in Wyvick. And Lauren from Sydney with plunger coffee. Oh, very nice. Jodie's got saying hi from Tassie. So we've got a good spread. So we're in WA, Tassie, over to New South Wales and Vic as well. And Naomi, who's a wellbeing counsellor at one of the secondary college in Victoria. Jono from WhyNot.
With no hot beverage.
No hot beverage, no. And Stacey from New South Wales. Brilliant. Okay, and Kiva from Tassie, and then we'll maybe make a start. So thanks for sharing who's in the room and what you're drinking.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome everyone to the first WhyNot and the Why co-hosted wellness webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. We just want, to firstly check in with you. So Laura is joining us to help facilitate. So if you could pop up that first poll to check in and see how everyone is going.
Absolutely.
So while everyone's, so we'll just let us know if you can't see that poll come up.
So if you just click your answer on the poll and then press submit. Tanya's unable to click a response. Okay, so a couple of people are not able to click a response. So if you can't click a response on your poll, if you just type it into the question box, we can obviously map that. Also, Jono's just said here, if you can't see the poll, you need to change your window to view. So if you put your in view mode, you should be able to see the poll. I'm not sure if people can see that. If you get a chance, that worked, brilliant. So if you put it in view mode, you should be able to do the poll, and we'll do it for another 15, 20 seconds, and we'll then close the poll and see what the results are.
Okay, awesome. Oops. So generally we're all feeling pretty good, and a few I'm starting to struggle, and that's all right. Phil, how are you feeling today?
I'm actually good today. So today's been one of the more positive days, and I'm feeling quite upbeat. So that's been a good day for me. How about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. A little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. This is my first webinar, but feeling really excited about it. So yeah, it's another good positive day for me too. So we'll just head back to that screen then. Perfect. So as I said, joining us today, myself and Phil, is the lovely Laura to help facilitate and field any of those questions that you might have, and also help us run this as smoothly as possible. But if we do hit any technical snags, please bear with us. I was lucky enough to attend a workshop earlier in this year with Phil, which felt more like an in-depth chat around self-care, and we're excited to be able to do a similar chat here and deliver in this format with all of you today. So a little bit about me. I'm Lauren, and I'm the digital content coordinator for the WHY's online platform, WhyNot. I work alongside 8 amazing individuals from across our WHY organisations who help amplify the voices of inspiring and powerful young people all across Australia by publishing their work on our online platform.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lauren. I'm Phil, so I'm one of the exec managers for safeguarding at the WHY. So that's just a brief intro to me, and generally been leading some of the self-care workshops we've been delivering across the WHY, and we thought it'd be great to put this out to everyone in the community and offer it as a free session to try and help everyone reflect on their self-care and improve where they can and look after themselves.
Awesome, and yeah, Laura is also part of Phil's national safeguarding team.
Thanks, Lauren.
No worries. Okay, so we want to make this webinar as interactive as possible, so we have a couple of polls. As Phil's already pointed out, definitely use the questions to keep chatting through with us, and we'll try and incorporate that as much as possible. I guess we're sort of doing this today because COVID has affected all of us, Phil and I included, and it's not only affected those who you can visibly and physically see the impact of, but those who haven't really been affected, and I guess they're feeling that pressure and stress or guilt of the lack of impact that they have. Would you say that's correct, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. And I even suppose reflecting back on some of the polls, which really appreciate people being honest about that. a number of people said they were okay, but obviously we saw 2% saying that they're really struggling, and some people, obviously, I think it's 4 or 5% saying that they're not doing too good. So it really is showing the impact that COVID's had a really difficult time for all of us, and I think it's okay to acknowledge that and reflect that it has been a really difficult time, and some of us are doing really well today and others us aren't doing so well, and that's okay. And what we're going to try and do is explore where we're okay, where we're not okay, and days will be up and down. And like Lauren said to me, I was feeling great today, whereas last week I wasn't feeling so great. So there's little hopeful, practical things we can give you to support you today, to try and maybe go away and sort of improve your state of mind, but also how you can check in with each other if you are struggling.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that like a lot of restrictions across Australia are currently lifting. So we're about to go through, another set of changes, and that also can be really stressful. And that's okay as well. It's okay not to be okay. As like I'm a bit anxious as the restrictions lift. So I guess this has come at a really good time to have this chat with Phil and everybody here. So Phil, if you want to just show the next, yeah, perfect.
So,
do you want to explain what the analogy is, and then
yes.
I'll explain how it impacted me?
Absolutely. So hopefully a lot of you can see what's on here, and you might have actually seen this before, which is the oxygen mask. So a lot of you have probably been on flights, and you can probably reflect on what does that actually mean. And a real key life lesson when we delivered this to the WhyNot editorial committee, which Lauren's part of, and a number of people, was saying that actually a key life lesson is you need to put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist others. Lots of us are empathetic, compassionate people who really want to help and support others, but sometimes what we forget to do is put ourselves first. And actually what we're trying to get you to think of today is, how do you put your own oxygen mask on before you help others, because you can only help others if you really look after yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, this was like a really, not like a wake-up call, and a good friendly reminder that, I have to, look after myself first. And, when we were chatting earlier this year, we talked about hitting that wall, that imaginary wall, and the pressures and anxiety and stress. And that space between me hitting the wall and being okay was getting shorter and shorter. And I realized it was because I wasn't taking care of myself first. I was putting everybody else above me, and which we all do. But I realized that if I didn't start putting myself first, it just, like, it was not going to end well. And those lengths were just going to continuously get shorter and shorter, instead of, keeping me in a good mental state of mind. So yeah.
That's really helpful, and I think thanks for sharing that, Lauren. And I think this is what we're going to try and get from you in this session, even though it's hard over a webinar, is just to get you to go away and think about your own sort of oxygen mask, but reflecting also on this concept of how are you really, and really reflecting on what Lauren said there, is we're always taught to be okay, or to say we're okay, and there are some real struggles particularly underpinning that. So really reflecting on where are we at and what are we doing, and how are we actually really coping. And it's okay if we're not coping, and what we're going to give you hopefully some strategies, but also we want this to be really informal and get you guys to share in the chat log with each other about some of the stuff you do to help with your self-care, because that will really help create a movement and a group, a cohort of young and people across Australia to really support each other and get better with their own self-care practices.
Yeah, definitely. Sally, I've just seen a comment come through from you. You're the full-time carer for your parents, and so it's hard for you to put your own oxygen mask on first, and I completely understand that. So I hope what we can achieve here today together, through suggestions that Phil and I do, as well as other people within this group, are just small things that you can do. So things that don't take a whole lot of time, that can help improve that self-care, and help you.
With you on that one, and yeah, thank you, Sally. That's a really key one. And what we'll hopefully give from today is just real practical, small stuff which we've done, and also we're going to be really honest and say there's certain things which I've done, and I know Lauren's done as well, which haven't worked, and that's okay. So we're not the experts in this. I don't think anyone's an expert. What we're going to give you is our personal experience, and and really talk to you about things which have worked and where we've learned lessons to go, do you know what? I thought that going on a run was going to be the best self-care because everyone told me it was going to be, but actually hated every minute. So we'll talk to you about some of those real things and just to be kind to yourself during this really difficult time.
Definitely. Okay, so at the beginning of the webinar, we asked you to tell us how you're feeling, and it's so easy to sort of brush that off. And when someone's like, how are you going today? Good. Why not? We ran an awesome campaign last October called #WhyNotCheck-in. And if you head over to our Instagram and scroll, you'll see some of the content there. And it was about checking in with each other, and asking those tough questions, but most of all, checking in with ourselves. And, you know, I think the WhyNot team does this really well. I personally believe every meeting that we have, we do a check-in. We kick off the meeting with a check-in. We mix this up. Sometimes it's good week, bad week. Recently, we've been doing one word that describes how you're feeling. So happy, sad, content, feeling a bit tight in the chest, and one thing that we're grateful for. And you don't have to explain that. It's just something so that, you know, you're sharing it and it's a quick thought. Of that, you know, I guess, Phil, how do you check in with yourself? Like really check in with yourself?
Yeah, good. And I think that's a fundamental, really good question. That's stuff I've actually learned from the WhyNot team, and I think the key piece is continuing to learn. And what I suppose, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is just those key things when you start to identify the triggers. So where you're starting to identify where you're starting to be really short. So I'm quite a happy, sociable person. So COVID's been a difficult time for me. Not being able to go out is a real challenge. As you've probably seen a lot of those memes around introverts checking on your extroverts. That's exactly how it's felt like for me, not being comfortable in this space. So identifying where triggers really are and when I'm starting to be short, snappy with people, or actually stopping to want to actually socialize. Being a sociable person, I love socializing. So when I start to realize that I'm cancelling plans or cancelling catch-ups or Zoom calls with friends, then I kind of want to check in and go, what's that mean for me currently?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's so important. Being able to recognize those signs and then action those signs is really important, and takes a lot of self-reflection there.
So,
sorry, yes, Phil, you go.
Yeah, just now I was saying that, Lauren, it may be quite good to pick up on that because I think you led nicely into that piece of research around that. There's been some really current research, and what we're saying around isolation is that we've all been in isolation in a certain capacity in quarantine ourselves, or being stuck in our own home with friends, families, maybe not, or maybe by ourselves. But research unpicked from other aspects of the SARS virus and other isolation effects show that there actually are likely to be impacts of stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, anger and confusion. And these are real lasting effects on people. And I think it's really key to acknowledge that there is research underpinning that why we need to do self-care, because post the isolation, there is going to be some long-lasting impacts of some of this. So we just need to check in with ourselves. And I suppose, Lauren, over to you around, was it quite a shock that if you look at the data at the bottom, which says young people and females were at higher risk?
Yes and no. I guess I always assume that young people, being a young person myself, and female, that like I'm quite versatile to change and flexible. But you know, COVID has had this, it's probably impacted me more than I thought it would. I work from home, so not a lot changed on that front. Unlike you, Phil, I'm an introvert, so I enjoy my own space. But being told to stay inside is like a totally different thing from choosing to stay inside. And so that, like, dealing with that, and then, you know, WhyNot also took a brief hiatus. So it was not having that regular routine, that kind of thing that I was struggling with. So yes, surprise probably before COVID if you had told me this. Post-COVID and after living through it, well, not post-COVID, currently during COVID and living with this, and living through it myself, I'd say yes, I 100% agree. But I mean, you know, I think that doesn't exclude other age groups or genders either.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's just that piece while we just really touch on the research is just to say there is some evidence based to this, that and the reason why we talk about self-care and why we're going to go into some real strategies shortly around how you can help yourself. Just in Nicole, just seems to put a really good article, it seems like, in around reverse culture shock in the chat box. So if you want to download the article, that can be a really good piece. Or is that in the question box? Sorry, if it's in the question box, I'll ask Laura just to push it over to the chat log. Sorry, my technical abilities aren't great, as you'll start to see.
So we're all learning. But yeah.
Perfect. So I suppose, Lauren, I'm going to ask you this question around what is self-care? I mean, there's lots of definitions. It's a buzzword, I suppose, at the moment. But what really is self-care, and what does it mean to you, and what is it, and I suppose what isn't it?
I used to think self-care was, definitely doing things for yourself, and that's what it is. But I used to think it was like a whole day spending like a girl's day with my mum, or like it had to be this big event, self-care was this big thing. Now self-care still about me, and it's stuff that makes me feel really good. So it's the little things, those tiny things that I can work into my everyday life, that get me from A to B, and keep me happy and smiling and sane and full of energy. You mentioned before the gym. Gym, my mum is always saying, go to the gym, be active, that's healthy. And I hate the gym. I hate it. It's really stressful for me. For those who, are my gym buddies and drag my butt to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, the night before, I'm like this bundle of like anxiety, because I just, it does, okay, I feel good after the hour that I've gone. But it's not a pleasant, couple of hours leading into it. It's just so, it's just not for me. So I think, it's for what I'm learning, and what I'm learning through this experience, and what I'm still learning, is that self-care is not a one-size-fits-all package.
Yeah, and I really like that idea and that concept of that self-care isn't a one-size-fits-all. And I suppose the key things we're saying is self-care is the things which just build you up and make you feel good, and that doesn't mean from day to day it's going to be the same thing. So what we're really encouraging, I suppose what we've learned, is that self-care is stuff that builds you up through your body, your mind, your spirit, and the spirit is the kind of the thing within you, and it's just things which make you happy and enjoy. So it's not stuff you force yourself to do. So like I said, if you force yourself, some people love to go on a run. If that's what makes you happy, go for it. If you force yourself and hate going on a run, don't force yourself to go on a run, and because that's not something you enjoy doing. I know prior to COVID, my big thing, I said to Lauren, was going to the movies was a big way for me, as I love going to the movies. It switched me off, and that is something which is self-care. So it doesn't always have to be the particular things we're told what we should do. It's about what works for you and what makes you happy.
Definitely. And I think even going into COVID, there was and the WhyNot team has, like, we've talked about this in depth, there was a lot of articles about, stay active, nourish your body, get sleep, and that's how, like, you can keep your self-care up. Well, I hate eating healthy. I don't hate eating healthy. I'm not a very good cook. I don't like traditional exercise, and sleep is fine, but it wasn't like, it was this pressure that I have all of this time on my hands to, do those stock standard run-of-the-mill kind of things. But yeah, so I like 100% agree. It's about you. This is self-care is about you, and what makes you feel good.
And I think we've just got a piece from Layla, which in the question box, which came through a really one. So let's just move, because questions move, saying that loving the oxygen mask, looking forward to hearing more about how others are dealing with the changes, self-care and strategies. So absolutely around that. So thanks, Layla. And Susan as well, saying, listen to this webinar will be part of my self-care today by raising my awareness and making time for me and myself. And that's what we're really, I suppose, leads us really nicely onto the next poll, which we're going to ask Laura to put up there, is how well do you guys think you are practicing your self-care at the moment? And it's fine, be completely honest, because I know at times Laura and I will say we're doing nothing, and other times will be great. So be honest, and we're going to launch this poll for a minute and just see what your responses are. So we've got about 67% of you who have voted. So if you can keep voting again. Jono has said he's going to be golfing this Sunday. You can't see it again. If you change to the view mode, you should be able to hopefully see the poll and be able to vote. So I'll give you a couple more seconds just to get some more votes in, if you can do. Perfect, okay. Well, some interesting answers, Lauren. What do you think of some
definitely. Definitely more than, which is awesome, more practicing more than what I thought it would be, given my own experience.
Yeah.
Okay. Since when we had our chat, I was like, not at all. Maybe once every 6 months if you're lucky. That's awesome.
Brilliant. So it's really useful, and I think holding on to that we've got people sort of in the middle. So we've got a spread, but generally quite a few people. 28%, so nearly a third of us are doing it. Just under a third of us are doing it daily, which is incredible, and that's hopefully been a real skill. And like I said, if you're not doing any at all, so someone who's not doing it at all, that's absolutely fine as well. That's just something that happens, and hopefully from this we can help you get there.
Awesome.
So
okay, so Phil, you talked about before self-care is about, you know, body, mind and spirit. And I guess now I'd like to just have a chat with you and hopefully everybody in the chat, just giving suggestions on what they do for body, mind, spirit, self-care, and getting some ideas. I am always looking for new ways to practice self-care because it's so important. But yeah, not as we said, not everything always works, and sometimes I get really bored of my self-care routine.
Yeah.
So changing it up is really important too. So I guess body, what are some, like we've got here, take 3 long deep breaths,
yeah,
you know, go for a walk and things like that, but what are some of the stuff that you do?
Absolutely. So there's different things, and we've just put up some suggestions for you. So again, in the chat blog, if you can start saying some of the stuff you're doing in body, that'd be great. So the body is the kind of things which are for your body. So I suppose for me, I moved to Australia. You can probably hear from the very, very deep British accent. The reason I came to Australia.
I thought you were native. This is odd.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm getting the twang. I'm getting the Melbourne twang apparently. The reason I moved here was particularly for the sun, and I think for me, I love the sun, and having 10 minutes of it a day can just really help. So the other day I literally
Queensland.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should swap because you prefer the cool and I prefer the heat. So you come to Melbourne, I go to Queensland.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I sit on my balcony and just literally catch 10 minutes of sun in the day, and it makes me come alive. It's such a small thing to do, but just switch off, put some music on, not read my emails, not read socials, and just sit in the sun. It's only 10 minutes, and honestly can be a massive change for me.
Awesome. I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, for anybody who's a Grey's Anatomy fan, and I feel like it's been on for 1,000 years, but I probably started watching it when I was like 11 or 12, and I feel like that show coined the phrase 30-second dance party, and so 30-second dance parties have been part of my self-care routine since I was, you know, in high school, and I would, you know, whether I was stressed about finals or boys or that constant "what are you doing next year" question, it was I'm just going to put on 30 seconds of music. That's all it took, and I would just like dance it out, and the only thing that I had to worry about was like sticking to the beat. Didn't matter like what was going on in my external, just in my little bubble, just stick to the beat. And even now, that's part of my daily routine. So I will get up every morning and I will put on a new song and I will dance it out in my kitchen.
Yeah. Can we see a bit?
To the joy of my neighbors, I'm sure. But yeah, so it's something that like has stayed with me for ages, and I find really helpful, and it's active without, you know, running.
Yeah, I get that. And what I like with this, and actually I'm just going to push us there, Lauren, to that chat box. We've got quite a few people going, so I think the chats are coming in as questions, so but that's fine because we can see these. So and I'm good on multitasking, which is a challenge for me. So we have Jodie saying sunshine, which is great. Catherine, and make sure to get up from the desk and have a stretch and practice yoga. Love that idea.
Oh, I do love yoga. A quick 10-minute session of yoga is good.
Yeah, love that. Kelly.
Thanks, Georgie. I love that.
Yeah. Georgie likes to go for a run and eat lint balls in bed, so the lint chocolate in bed. Great, love that as well. And we've got, so we'll try and keep coming to these, but we've also got Parks and Recreation for Madeline. It's great. And Stacey taking up painting, which is actually we're going to talk about shortly. Actually, we'll move on to the next one in a second and talk about that. Is the painting, which is around, I suppose, your mind and some of the things you can do. And I suppose just building on what you just said there is actually, for me, is that play part. Going back, I suppose, working with children and young people, and that's my job. One thing I love about that is I learned that actually the reason kids can be so happy at times is because they can play. And this concept of going to painting, you don't have to be good at it. You can do some crafts. Actually, it's just been fun. I went to Kmart the other day, and there's no sponsorship deal here, so you can buy this in other places as well. I bought one of those paint, like they're pots, and you can just paint them. They're like a kids one, and it was so much fun just to switch off.
Cool. I love that. I've been watching a lot of like art videos on Facebook as I scroll through, and got really inspired and went out and, I don't know, bought all of these things. Was not very good at it. So went back a second time and ended up going to Woolies and buying like a kid's colouring in book. And so now I spend a couple of hours a week colouring in Disney princesses because I prefer to stay with inside the lines, and it like de-stresses me. It's like, but like taking something that like really helps someone else and like changing it so that it like works within my like OCD mindset. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can colour. So yeah, I love, I wish I was as talented as the WhyNot graphic designer Eileen, but I'm not. So I stick to my Disney princesses and colouring inside the lines.
No, it's great, and that's and I think these are great things. And actually, we're getting some amazing stuff. Annalise saying took up embroidery and calligraphy, which is
awesome.
Some tie-dye clothes. So that's definitely something you'd get Lauren to wear, I think.
So cool. Definitely, as I'm dancing around the kitchen. I also took up calligraphy, Annalise. I find it really soothing. I can only spell my name because that's what I practice with. But yeah, that's awesome.
So lots of other stuff in there. I mean, we'll try and get through. Sorry, we're not getting them all from them, but we'll try and get them. We've got another one. Sorry, I've just moved my stick again, which says rollerblading from Russ. I love that idea, going out doing some rollerblading, and it's fun. And I think, Lauren, this is for me has been really interesting in actually COVID, and I'm trying to see a positive from COVID, is that I've seen a lot more compassion and kindness from people, and also people taking new skills as well, which I think is a massive success with COVID. So even though there's been a really awful time, people are baking more, people are getting back to basics and enjoying going out for a walk. I suppose, has that been some for you around?
I've just seen Nicole say she hated cooking before COVID and now she really enjoys it. Nicole, same here. Anybody who knows me is known as Miss Uber Eats, and because I've been in lockdown and have all of this time on my hands, I've been cooking, and I'm not great, but it is really soothing, and I'm finding it like, trying out new recipes and things like that has been really fun. And just I work with Jono and he does gardening, so I gave gardening a shot as well. My garden's now dead, but that's okay. I gave it a go, and we just I think that's like finding the positives in a negative situation is really important.
That's great. And And I think that's the piece, is finding that, and that's great for the minds, because it can be really, I suppose, pushing on us. And looking into the next one around spirit, I'm just again, we'll keep trying to get as many, so keep coming them into the question log, because we'll actually collate these and actually put them as a handout after this webinar of all the things, because Jackie's just said they took up photography in ISO and loves it, and gets them back to nature walking, which is awesome. So in terms
I love how a lot of people are talking, and it's like like body and mind. So they're combining all body and spirit, and so like it shows how interconnected everything is. You know, dance for me is like a body thing, but it's also mind because it's music, and spirit because it's music. So it's nice to see that, you know, that interconnection there.
And I suppose what you're really key point you just said there is that you can't just do all of one and none of the other. I suppose body, mind, spirit, which is kind of the WHY's logo, the reason why it's a triangle is that if you just work on body, actually got to do mind and spirit. So what we're saying is trying to balance those three out, because if you just go for runs, or if you just do mind and spirit, you kind of need some of the body there as well. So that's, I suppose, a really key lesson actually from us, and definitely been for me recently.
Yeah, and I think I probably struggled with mind the most. And it was, you mentioned earlier before, Phil, that you did you went to the movies to help switch off, and you know, switch off your mind, because you've got 1,000 thoughts going through at the same time, and I have the same issue. And so I put on my fave rom-com and was like still checking my phone and forward thinking plans and things like that. And I actually found that crime shows are hugely helpful, because they're like, they're shorter, so I don't feel this like anxiety that I need to be somewhere. But also, if I'm not keeping up with what's happening in the plot, I'm not keeping up, you know. So that's been really helpful. You know, so I think that's like, again, adjusting something, but mine is probably the one that I struggle with the most out of the three. Just
And I think that's a good point, is that's natural, that some of this isn't going to be easy. So don't feel like, for you, if you just go away and try something, it doesn't work, that's fine. And I think that's what we're saying to everyone on this call, which has been great. And we're still getting loads more things coming in here. Keep them coming in, because we want to share them. But yeah, it's not always going to be easy, some of these, and actually there might be stuff you haven't thought about, and this is what's great. So I see Christine talked about patting and cuddling her dog, so that's a lovely one as well. And Nicole talking about to do a virtual movie night with friends, having a cheesy ISO date night in with your partner. Lovely idea. And I know from my perspective, in terms of spirit, I've just got a puppy, which she's underneath me at the moment, so I might grab her for you to see. But she's great to have that sort of lift in your spirit, because, you know, with good thing of dogs, they can lift you up. And if you don't have a dog, there's always lots of dogs on the park when you may be going for your walk. I mean, I'd always ask them, you get consent before you run up to someone's dog?
Go and borrow a dog.
There you go, you've got this one.
She's so beautiful. Hello.
So
She's so cute.
It's good for a little hug.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah, so little things
Get me down.
She's like, I was enjoying my snack. So Lauren, I wonder, this kind of piece around that, we're going to move us on to that sort of self-care plan, and people talk, we've given lots of ideas and suggestions, and people have come up with some great stuff. Kind of what is a self-care plan? And I know we talked about it when we first did it with yourselves and WhyNot a few months back. Has it been beneficial to you? What did you do? Did you write it down? Have you used it?
Yes, definitely wrote it down. I use it all the time, but I also found that I need to change it for the different circumstances. So my initial plan was like, dance it out, take 3 deep breaths, and go for a drive. But that's like really hard to do while at work, because, you know, dancing it out, having a silent disco at your desk is probably not looked kindly on for some people. So I mixed it up, and it was like, instead of dancing it out, I went for a walk, or I'd call a friend to have you know, a good laugh, to just like sort of swap that out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I suppose, so everyone in the group, if you see in your handouts, there is a section on your right hand side which says handouts. There is actually the webinar self-care pack, which is the self-care plan. And Lauren and I, we've all got our own self-care plan. And the reason we have that is sometimes by having it written down, when things are really difficult, if you have it written down, it's so much easier to have a look and go, this works for me. And I know for me, when I've had times where I'm panicking or struggling, it's really hard to see the wood through the trees. But all I have to do is have this, and it's printed actually in my bedside table, and I just literally pull that out and read it, and I go, the things which work for me, the top coping strategy, for example, is just breathing 3 deep breaths, go for a walk and put your headphones on. And it sounds so simple, but I bet lots of you in the room, and it'd be interesting actually to maybe put your hands up if you felt like this, when you've been a bit in crisis or struggling, you forgot to do those real basic things. And so sometimes having it written down really helps. So if you're able to, it'd be good to hear, has anyone else had that experience? If you put your hand up, we can see there's a hand raising piece on the left hand side of your tab. You can put your hand up, which is a hand with a little green arrow. People have felt the same. Yeah, we're seeing a fair few of you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wow. It's a huge amount. So with that, Lauren, did you find that when you developed your self-care plan, that when you did hit sort of that crisis, did it help? I suppose those free coping strategies.
It was. I'm happy to report since February, I haven't, even like through COVID, and it has been a really stressful time, a lot of change, I haven't hit a wall. It's like, just take a breath and, obviously key messages like we're all in this together and, and having a good support network, but I haven't like had like, hit that wall yet, which has been really helpful for me, and I think it's because I've written it down, and I can just quickly refer to that. I have it in my phone, so I've written it in my phone. It's in my notes section, so it's always on me. Joys of being a young person, never putting your phone down. I cannot recommend it enough. But you were saying earlier, Phil, that yours used to like listening to music and like changing it up is really important and things like that as well. So I guess, talking on that a little bit.
Yeah. And I suppose what we'd be thinking for today, if it's helpful to you, we've obviously put this plan up, but maybe you could download it, print it off or add it to your phone and just think about some of the things you can do. And again, you've got there's amazing stuff like Madeline reading books and virtual online dance classes from Agam, sorry. So there's some real great stuff you guys are already doing. So maybe just write them down and have your own plan in your phone. And actually, I never thought the idea of having it in your phone, because you might be out, and if you're out and you haven't got your bit of paper, it's a bit of a struggle. So that's a really good idea.
But yeah, keep the suggestions coming in, because it's good to help others and jog that sort of brainstorm on what can help you.
Yeah. So we've only got a few minutes left. Just checking on does any questions, people want to put some questions in about any questions you got for me, myself, Lauren, Laura, or anyone, or even just some comments is really great to put in the question box. We can try and respond.
Loving the conversations that are coming through in the chat. Really good stuff.
Give me one.
Debbie, in relation to following positive sites online, can't recommend enough the happiness broadcast. Hang on, now I've stuffed it up. Give me 2 seconds. The Happy Broadcast. I'm following them on Instagram or Facebook. I signed up to their newsletter, so every Monday morning I get all of good news that comes in the world amongst the stuff that is COVID. So love that idea.
How can I teach my family to value self-care? That's a really good question there, Georgie. I suppose it's self-care and getting, for me, it's changing a culture of how people think and believe. We really need just, I suppose, people to just, I suppose, put your own oxygen mask on first, is what we said, to do yourself. And I suppose teaching your family the value of self-care, and it's about the things they enjoy. So if they don't enjoy, like I said, doing the games, etc., maybe not forcing them to do it. So thinking about the things they enjoy and trying to do that together, and also doing that by themselves.
Yeah, I think the other thing there to keep in mind is that it's not going to happen overnight. You know, it's a huge cultural, you know, wake up call in a way, and so you just can only just keep chipping away at it, and it's not a reflection of you, and it's not a reflection, like, never let that take away from your self-care.
So just, I suppose we've got losing a few. We're going to just, I suppose, we're going to thank you for coming, and we've got kind of a call to action from this, which I'm going to just hand over to Lauren. I need to also let my dog out because she's crying, so I'm just going to open the door and give this to Lauren as the joys of live streaming.
Okay, so tag us, as I mentioned before. WhyNot is an online platform, so we're always online. So tag us with either those 3 hashtags there, or either WhyNot or the YMCA Australia's Instagram, and all of the resources showing us what you're doing for your self-care with self-care suggestions that we can then, you know, share to our platform and share to our contributors and things like that. Because sharing is caring. And all of the resources that Phil and I have put together for this webinar, we will email through at just straight after this, or by COB tomorrow. I don't know when Phil's got time to do that, but we will put it together. So don't stress. If you haven't had a chance to download, or, you know, technology, we will get them to you. But yeah, so using the hashtags, #WhyNot check-in, #self-care matters, and #self-care isn't selfish. And we'd love to reshare with your permission onto our own Instagrams as well, if possible.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you. That's great. And Sally, thank you for your comments as well about it's been good to listen, and you've had some good suggestions. And we really want to thank you all, because you've given some great suggestions, which we're going to collate and put them out, because the more we can, I suppose, start a movement about self-care and create people just being compassionate and looking after yourselves. And coming back to that point, think about that oxygen mask on yourself. Go away today and maybe do something which you really want to enjoy. Maybe it's a face mask, maybe it's a glass of wine. I know someone put in there. So do what makes you happy, and try and maybe actively do something today which can make you feel good and happy about yourself. And yeah, we're going to keep doing stuff like this and spreading that word, and we love you too.
Keep it coming. WhyNot's going to run a month-long wellness month, wellbeing campaign. So you guys giving us content is awesome. To just sort of like break down that barriers, as Georgie was talking about before. It helps if it's like online, because so much of what we do is influenced by our social media. Yeah. So
thank you, everybody. You will also get a little feedback survey which just pops up after this. It'd be great just to get your feedback, because Lauren and I, it's our first ever one, so we want to learn what we've done well and what we could maybe do differently. There's always stuff to learn, but yeah, it'd be great to hear from you. And yeah, thank you for spending 45 minutes with us, and hopefully we will see you soon for our series of webinars in June, which we're going to hopefully be launching.
Thanks, guys, and stay healthy and keep spreading kindness. Be kind to one another.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.